Real quick before we get into today's video, just want to thank all the people over on Patreon for all their support, because without their help, the upgraded content that you see on the channel, that you really see in the video essays and a few of the lore discussions, would not be possible without their help. Obviously, the YouTube membership filler arc is still ongoing, but I can say over on the Patreon that you get sneak peeks of videos months in advance. Patrons also get priority on the Q&As. Every 3 months we do an anime and manga haul, and I give away a lot of good goodies in that. And it's also just really cool to talk to you guys in the DMs, and if some of you guys have theories that you want me to talk about on the channel, obviously I will talk about your theories. Just send them to me over on the Patreon. But with that being said, let's get into the review. Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explain here, bringing you guys another review for Boruto episode 223. And now that episode 223 is done and in the books, dude, we got some stuff to talk about. So first and foremost, I have to say I'm pleasantly surprised and happy that Hoki won. As you guys know, a couple weeks back I did a video saying that I did believe that we were on upset alert when it comes to Hoki versus Inojin, and I'm very pleased to see that that indeed was the case. And I have to say, the fact that they did a good job in terms of the battle for this, I love it. So if you're one of those people who's like, I miss when Naruto shows were about battles between ninjas, and this is something that Boruto's gotten away from. It's all about aliens, even though aliens existed in Naruto Shippuden, and it's all about flashy jutsu, even though the back half of Shippuden was all about flashy jutsu. This was as much of a part 1 Naruto battle as you were ever going to see, and I love it. This wasn't the sexiest battle in terms of flashy jutsu and taijutsu and hand-to-hand combat. Instead, this was a battle that really showcased everything that is required to be a chunin. Let me be very clear. Even if Hoki had lost this battle, under the old chunin exams rules, Hoki would have been promoted. I love the fact that this kid, as soon as the examination started, he went in, he had a plan, and had this have been an actual mission where he's responsible for people, his team would have came out with minimum damage, because he was focusing on the move, hidden behind the move, and that's a good way to ensure safety. So he was memorizing the terrain, all while throwing his opponent off guard. He was also adjusting to his enemy as his enemy was trying to counterattack. When it became clear that his enemy was running low on chakra, he gave the enemy the opportunity to surrender, while also the hidden meaning behind this was also getting the opportunity to see if he could psych out his opponent. Everything was cool and calculated. Those are aspects that you want for tuning. And I will say this, because I think sometimes people forget this: character likability does not have anything to do with how strong or how skilled a character is. You can hate a character until you're blue in the face. It does not change that they're strong. It does not change that they're skilled. And I like how this episode showed you something that part 1 of Naruto hammered home. Genin who can use changes in chakra nature. Those are Genin who are a clear cut above the rest, and you saw that with this character of Hoki. He used that earth release jutsu, and he used a large scale earth release jutsu. And just as Tamari had a huge upper hand during her tuning exams by having change in chakra nature, Hoki was able to turn the tide in battle and won the tuning exams matchup largely because of his earth release jutsu. What this fight showed you is a critical element of part 1 of Naruto, which is the fact that battles are won and lost oftentimes by the very first maneuver that you do. Again, likability of a character does not take away from their abilities, their skill set, or their power. And what you saw here is that Sai has been training this team, and Hoki has picked up a change in chakra nature due to his training with Sai. And it was pointed out that the amount of training that they've undergone is not something that you typically give to Genin. However, like I warned you guys, this is not your typical team of Genin, because they've been going on Anbu Black Ops missions. This is a Genin team who Kakashi took special interest in particular this character Hoki. Kakashi was the one who specifically recommended that Hoki train underneath Sai. I'm fine with the off-screen power clipping that took place, because For every Naruto training to learn the Rasengan, and for every brief flashback of Sasuke trying to learn the Chidori, or Neji being shown going into a fighting pose when he's training with his uncle, a lot of these support characters in part 1 and in part 2, their training happened off screen. So I'm not going to get upset over it. Again, character likability does not take away from their progress. Character likability does not take away from their power and their growth. Now, backing things up a little bit. So now we got the important aspects of the fight out of the way. I want to kind of talk to you guys about the other thing that they set up here, which is this whole pleasant surprise of Himawari practicing to become a ninja. Now, I know there are a lot of people who are like, yo, I can't wait for Himawari to be a ninja. And previously, I was on the opposite side of it. I didn't want to see that take place, but I was very pleasantly surprised to see her doing ninja training with those classmates that she had at the pre-trial for the academy. I thought that that was kind of cool to see that. It does look like they're teasing Himawari is going to become a ninja. And what I like here is that as she's talking to Boruto and trying to figure out whether or not she needs to go to Naruto, Naruto's talking to Kawaki, and Naruto's like, hey, there's gonna be a lot of hand-to-hand combat right here. You should be very interested in the tuning exams. You can tell that's the thing that kind of gets Kawaki interested. And it kind of goes back to what I said before. They're slowly testing the waters to see whether or not Kawaki will become interested in the way of the shinobi. And I do like that. You know, at the end of the day, you know, Kawaki is still a child. He still has chakra. I know people get confused. Kawaki, like the other car members, are cyborgs. This means that they're humans with artificial enhancements, and whereas an android is just a robot that's meant to appear as if they're human. Kawaki is a cyborg. Kashin, Koji, Deepa, Victor, these are all cyborgs. They're just people who have had parts of their bodies upgraded with ninja tech. And what Naruto's trying to do right now, he's trying to say that even though you don't have the karma seal, you're still you. Yeah, you've got ninja tech running through your body, but you're also my student. You're also training to become a ninja. The choice as to whether or not Kawaki accepts that offer to become a Hidden Leaf Shinobi, that's yet to be made. However, what Naruto's trying to do is he's trying to present all the information to Kawaki. That way, Kawaki can make an informed decision. Does he continue just seeking power in the way that he's done as a person who relies on the scientific upgrades to his body? Or does he train to learn how to use chakra and pursue power to protect people via ways of ninjutsu? It's actually a clever bit of writing, and I like how they accomplished a lot of stuff in that small interaction between Naruto and Kawaki. Now, what I did find interesting was this decision to keep Boruto and Mitsuki away from the tuning exams. And while it is a nice callback to part 1 of Naruto, to where Sasuke ended up showing up to the exams late, I'm going to stand by what I've said, which is, while I do want to see a Boruto versus Mitsuki battle, I think that the main purpose of these tuning exams is to highlight the growth and the progression and the power clipping of the other members of Boruto's generation, because so far it's been a very Team 7 centric last couple of years. And so this is really just the opportunity to see how much stronger the rest of them got. Boruto versus Mitsuki would be something that takes away from the growth of those other characters. And if you got the opportunity to see them go up against anybody else in that generation who wasn't Sarda, you run the risk of Boruto and Mitsuki just absolutely dogging them out. So I understand the narrative intent behind this. I do believe that what they're doing with Amato, they're going to use this as number 1 as a way to continue planting the seeds between Amato and Shikamaru, and have Amato put on house arrest 120,000%. I also believe that they're using this whole situation with Amato to potentially set up a Car outer member arc. I don't think that this plot point with Boruto and Mitsuki is going to be something that's resolved very quickly in this transition episodes. I think they rescue Amato and then that kind of just bleeds over into the next arc, in my opinion. But the other thing too is Boruto right now, he doesn't necessarily have to prove to his father that he's worthy of being Chunin, and he doesn't need to prove anything in terms of making up for his prior squabble during the Chunin exams where he cheated. He's been acknowledged in the village as a hero. He's been acknowledged by his friends as being very skilled. And like I said before, this was more so a Chunin exams meant to highlight the growth of the other characters in Boruto's generation. And honestly, at the end of the day, if Boruto remains as a genin after this arc, I'm going to stress again, I'm not upset over that, because that's once again another callback to what you got in the Naruto franchise, which is the fact that your rank isn't something that makes or breaks you. Sasuke is technically still a genin. Naruto, if Naruto steps down as Hokage, Naruto is still technically a genin. Genma was a special Jonin. Genma got bodied by the Sound 4. Naruto swapping hands with Jonin, even though Naruto was a genin. So it's one of those things where all the rank is just a shiny accomplishment, but it doesn't take away from the character in any way, shape, form, or fashion, whether or not they achieve a rank or not. And that goes back to the Hoki versus Inojin battle, which is the fact that Hoki started out with a team that was at the bare bottom of the class. Nobody had any type of expectations of them. They were seen as a joke. And look how they were able to work their way up. If Hoki lost this match and was never promoted to a Chunin ranking, that doesn't take away from the fact that Hoki is more skilled than some of these people that have a Chunin and even a Jonin rank. I think a lot of the times the fandom gets caught up too much in the rank that people have and how flashy the battle is, or how cool the fight is, or what their attack potency is. All that stuff's cool, but that's never been what Naruto is about at its core. And I feel like this episode of Hoki versus Inojin definitely showcased all of that. When you look at the fact that Inojin was in a situation where he's dealing with the Akadas in the Mitsuki desertion arc, and in the car actuation arc, he's gone up against Deepa. Granted, he got bodied. The fact is that you've seen Team 10 and you've seen their progression on screen. And so in your mind, you're thinking this is going to be an absolute stomp. However, like I said, with the whole Naruto franchise, the strongest person isn't always the victor. That's the whole purpose of why I did the True Power series and the method that I did. I wasn't doing any number crunching or scaling or anything like that. I more so presented the Jutsu arsenal and the abilities and highlighted stuff like intelligence, because Naruto is a series. A lot of times the fights come down to those small factors like that, just like how you saw in this episode here. I feel like this was a Naruto-esque episode at its heart. Everything that Hoki has experienced has led him up to this point. Through his training with Sai, through his own combat ability, through his photographic memory, he took advantage of all of those aspects. And in a battle that Inojin should have won, Hoki was able to cement his victory from the very first jutsu. The moment that he established that earth-style terrain, the battle was pretty much decided. There were just a few factors that needed to be checked off the bucket list at that point. And what I like about this is that Hoki used Inojin's confidence against him. And even when Inojin was trying to do his own counterattacks and he realized that he's getting low on chakra and he's trying to plant traps for the character of Hoki and use his photographic memory against him by putting the paintbrush stroke all over the rock in order to make Hoki get in a position where Inojin could use his mind transfer jutsu. That's all stuff that was already accounted for. And you see how Hoki was able to turn Inojin's confidence against him, because when Inojin should have just used his mind transfer jutsu and forced him to submit, Hoki was able to recover and put into practice the training that Sai used. So you're familiar with the fact that you have genjutsu blocks to keep people from entering into minds. However, Hoki was specifically trained by Sai to physically resist that, and it's not something that is two out of the way. Rin Nohara, when they tried using genjutsu on her during the Third Great Ninja War, she was able to resist giving up too much intel. And when you look at the mind transfer jutsu in part 1 of Naruto, you saw how Sakura was able to resist Ino by having that strong will. So I do like, again, how you see Hoki was able to take advantage of Inojin's weakness. And that's the thing that he tells him, that if you just would have finished things off immediately after the fact, this fight would have been over. Which goes back to what I said. It does not matter about your ranking. It comes down to your skill set and your arsenal. That's why I took the approach that I did on my True Power series, where I wasn't power scaling the characters. I laid out the information for you, explained why these characters are so deadly, because that's the whole thing of the Naruto franchise. The strongest person doesn't always win unless there's an overwhelming difference in raw power, like what you saw with Naruto and Sasuke versus Jigen and Naruto and Sasuke versus Ishiki. The difference in raw physical stats was just so overwhelming. It did not matter what type of jutsu they knew. They were going to lose that fight 10 times out of 10. There's a reason Naruto needed Baryon mode, because he was unable to even touch Ishiki prior to that. In the battle against Jigen, Jigen had the advantage in terms of physical stats, but between Ishiki's dojutsu and the ability of the karma and the lack of information, he was just a hard counter, especially to somebody like Sasuke. You want more information? I literally go over Naruto and Sasuke's entire ninjutsu arsenal, including all of the Rinnegan abilities that Sasuke didn't use in that fight, and explain to you why they're utterly useless against Jigen as a character. The same thing with Naruto's attacks. I literally break everything down. Jutsu by jutsu, you name the jutsu, I discussed it in the video. I recommend checking that out if you're still somebody that has PTSD over the name Jigen. But for the most part with Naruto fights, unless there's a massive difference between the power levels of the characters, it's the small things like this that typically will decide the outcome of a battle. The person with the higher rank is not always the better ninja. And I feel like this episode really encompassed all of that. People that wanted Boruto's anime to get more closer to what was part 1 of Naruto, this was a part 1 Naruto-esque episode. The move hidden behind the move, the underdog coming out on top, all the things that we fell in love with Naruto, those were written into this story, just given a modern twist. My episode question to you guys is, on a scale from 1 to 10, how impressed were you with not just Hoki's battle against Inojin, but also how impressed were you with Sai as a teacher? Let me know down in the comment section below. But as always, guys, if you like anything I had to say, don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching to the end. Have an awesome day, guys.